Great, thank you, Charlie. And thank you everyone for staying on for this last little bit. We just wanted to make a plug to you all, really. At the MIC, as Rachel said in her first presentation, we have a public insight panel who help guide the work of the MIC. We set it up in January this year, and we have 5 fantastic members of that group, some of which are here today. And Gary's going to talk in a second about his experience of being involved. But we'd like to double that amount and have 10 members join us and support the MIC's work. So if you found this event interesting and talking about COVID, there is a chance to get involved in the wide work research remit that the MIC has. The main requirements for getting involved are an interest in health research and a wish to want to contribute to making a positive difference to health diagnostics. You don't need any experience of being part of a patient group. This might be your first time getting involved in anything like this or joining one of these events. We'd love to still hear from you, and we will support you to be part of the group. We currently meet via Zoom, and we have a quarterly meeting. So every 3 months during the year, we have a meeting, but we hope that we might be able to do that face-to-face again back in Newcastle at some point. And yeah, so there's the commitment's mainly 4 core meetings a year, and then some ad hoc sort of activities with the MIC. And we'll be, as part of the information that gets sent out by Charlie, we'll put a full kind of brief in there and an advert, hoping that some of you may want to join us. But I thought it would be really useful for you to hear from someone who's been involved right from the start. So Gary, over to you as one of our lovely panel members.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Well, the first thing I'm going to say is that judging from responses to the quiz that Rachel did earlier on, there's obviously a strong amount of knowledge out there already, and obviously some interest. Could see from the group that I was just in the breakout that there's a lot of motivation about there. Yes, as Kasia said, I joined the group earlier this year. 2 things that you must not do, though. The first one is you mustn't worry about the acronyms, because there will be acronyms and they will all be explained in due course. And as Kasia said, don't worry about not having done this before, because I hadn't either. So that will not be a barrier to participating. So in joining the group, I can guarantee that you'll be getting some interesting subject matter to comment on. I think the key word is the insight, because just like me, you'll be able to give some sort of, I suppose, informed opinion on how something might go down amongst the general public or amongst patients and so on. My other activity which I'm mainly involved in is something called the Apex Group at the NHS Newcastle Trust, which is advising on the patient experience, which is an acronym, unfortunately. But through that, I came to this group, and I'm finding out the work that's happening on this group is feeding back into Apex, which is really good to say that that's actually quite organic. We've had the opportunity over the last few months to give comment on subject matters such as biomarkers, which I didn't actually know anything about until then, something called graphene, something about COVID care pathways, which we could comment on, and the use of artificial intelligence in stroke diagnosis. Now, I wouldn't have had an opportunity to do any of these things without the group there. So I think it's been a personal development opportunity for me as well. And I'm actually quite encouraged that I think 2 or 3 people have already indicated that they're already interested even before I started speaking in this. So that's really good. I mean, you would be helping to direct research on health, which is a great privilege to have. You'll be helping to make it accessible, so it makes sense, because not everything does make sense to the lay person, and you'd get a chance to do that as well. And I think the other thing is you could actually be from a hard to reach group out there. You may be able to represent that group. There may be that group isn't getting any representation in health research issues at all. The other thing I'll mention is something called the Multiverse Lab. Some of you may have heard of it or actually been on the site to have a look at it. That's what sort of led me into this, which is where you can have a voice and you can actually record your voice on what your aspirations are for health research in your lifetime. And if you haven't been on it, I think the link will probably be made available to you. I would urge you to go on it, go through the journey. You'll find out some fascinating things about this area and split down into your individual locality, what the main key issues, illnesses, research aspects are. So that's well worth looking at as well. As Kasia says, we're not fully formed yet because we are recruiting some new members to the group, and if anyone's interested in doing it, I would recommend it. You will be effectively, I think, an empowered sounding board is one way you could describe it, because your view will have some importance to where health research is steered. So I think from what I've heard this morning from just the small breakout group, there are people there who know a lot more about things to do with health research, things that I don't know about. So there's a lot of sharing of knowledge as well, which I think you'll find quite fruitful. You will, within the group, get a chance to do, as Kasia says, some breakout activities and ad hoc piece of work as well. And I'm looking forward to when we can actually meet again in person at the Catalyst, because we did get a chance to do some events in person. I think it's really nice that actually continues. If anybody had a question about being a member of the group that I might be able to answer, I have no scientific background, but certainly you don't need to have one to be on the panel. You just have to be motivated, interested in where research may be going, and feeling that you can make a difference, really, I think. So if anybody wants to ask me anything, I'll be happy to try and answer it. If you're curious about health research, you see things all the time on TV. It's inescapable, obviously, with COVID. And you might wonder, how can you have some input? How can you comment on things? Maybe this is the place to be for that. It's early days, and I think we do need to bolster the panel. And I think there's a lot of people out there this morning who will probably do well on the panel, actually. So if anybody wants to ask me anything, I'll be happy to try and answer it. Otherwise, I'll leave you with Kasia to explain anything else.